Hey, it's Tim with the University of Vinyl. Thanks again for tuning in again today. You know what? I'm coming up on 3 years of doing videos focused on my record collecting journey. And it's been a ton of fun. I am still enjoying it as much as ever. And I'm super happy with the response that I've gotten over the last 3 years. I've got over 10,000 people subscribed to this channel who have decided to listen to what I have to say. And I've even got people in some cases asking me for advice on different pressings, which is something that I love. I love to share the love of music. And thinking about that now, I'm going to start branching out into jazz. I'm not going to leave behind all that other music that I love, but I am going to start talking about jazz in a new series of dedicated episodes called Deep Focus Jazz. And I wanted to kind of give these their own lane because if you are not a fan of jazz, you could just easily see that maybe a video that I put up is one of these Deep Focus Jazz episodes and you can just kind of move along and ignore. Or if you are interested or curious or a jazz lover, please, please, please check these out. And let's start a dialogue. I'm gonna be recommending some things that I've found. And if you guys and ladies have other recommendations that maybe are in a similar vein, please reach out, drop a comment, shoot me a DM on Instagram, because I just love exploring and discovering new music. And, I'm in my late 50s now. I just had a birthday last week, and this is where I'm kind of headed, a little bit at least. It can't always be Van Halen or Queen or New Order. So please join me, and thanks again for watching. Today I've got two really interesting titles from the year 1972 to share with you. 1972, if you do a little bit of research and poking around, it was a pretty cool year for jazz. 1972... rock and roll had kind of overcome jazz as far as being the most popular music in the world at that point in time. We had, from the jazz genre, the top albums, let's say in the top 10 of all the critics that you might seek out online, or maybe you're watching people on YouTube. I think Miles Davis's On the Corner is definitely in the conversation as being in the top 10. McCoy Tyner's Sahara album was supposedly an amazing piece of work. I haven't heard it, believe it or not. And then, Herbie Hancock had two offerings that year, Sextant and Crossings. Both, moving kind of into the future, full steam ahead. That future was all about soul jazz and the beginnings of fusion, adding elements of funk and R&B. As I mentioned last week, I had a birthday, and I actually had a little bit of time off from work that particular day. And I was in a shop in Longmont, Colorado, which is, 45 minutes south of where I live. Went out for lunch and decided to stop in this shop, which is kind of notorious here locally for being incredibly expensive. But this place is almost kind of like a library of Congress of recorded works. It's amazing. The scope, the breadth, the different pressings from other countries that you can find that you may never find anywhere else locally, maybe in Denver. But I go to this place occasionally, and yes, the prices are high, for certain things, but you can also find things that are reasonable or below Discogs. I don't know why that is, but it has worked for me in the past. I actually found an RL Led Zeppelin 2 there that they didn't know what it was. Anyway, anybody here locally that watches my videos, I think you're going to know the shop that I'm talking about. Anyway, I went in there and I stumbled across an album that I've never seen in the wild. That's the 1972 final release from the fantastic Lee Morgan, simply entitled Lee Morgan. This is an original pressing on Blue Note. When this was originally released, it came as a gatefold. You know, afterwards, down through the years, it became known as the Last Session album as well. But it was originally released just as a self-titled album. It came out in May of 1972. And if you don't know the story with what happened with Lee, he was murdered in February of 1972 by his common-law wife. And that happened on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in the Alphabet neighborhood at kind of a legendary live venue called Slug's Saloon. It is now, I think it's a bakery. It's been a bodega as well. I looked it up on Google Maps. Here's a view of what it looks like from the street right now. This record was recorded at Englewood Cliffs. You'll find Van Gelder in the original pressings in the Dead Wax. There's that Blue Note label. And the original pressings, one thing you should note, the song titles are actually in black ink. In later reissues, they're in blue. So Lee Morgan, you know, at the time of his death, it's really sad because he was really kind of pivoting and kind of opening up new directions for him and the people that he played with. This is an amazing record, I'll tell you that right now. Parts of it requires a little more, let's say, focused listening, particularly the last track, which kind of goes out there a little bit. But for the most part, I really like and enjoy this record. I've been listening to it several times now over the past week since I purchased it. And, you know, the band includes the great Billy Harper on tenor. Harold Mayburn is on acoustic and electric piano to great effect on this. And he is one of the highlights of this record. This is very much kind of a cohesive band record. Lee has some fantastic extended solos on the record, but you know, equal light is given to the rest of the band, and they all kind of have their moments in the sun. Reggie Workman is on bass, and then Bobby Humphreys is on flute, which adds kind of an interesting element to a couple of these songs. There are only 5 songs on this album. The 2 standouts for me are the lead-off track, Capra Black. It's a 16-minute incredible workout from the band, written by Billy Harper, and you know, it's the first song, the first side of the record. It's a fantastic way to kind of kick in and listen to this album. The other outstanding track, in my opinion, is on side 2. It again takes up the entire side, and it's called "In What Direction Are You Heading?" Kind of you know, an interesting title considering everything that happened. There is a look at side 2. You know, this thing was in near mint condition. Other than the corner cut on the jacket, this thing is in amazing condition. The record is in near mint condition, and you know, it's got that signature Van Gelder sound. This was recorded over a couple days in July of 1971 at Englewood Cliffs. just an explosive soundstage. A lot of slam, a lot of drive, some nuance there in the quieter passages of the record, but just an explosive sounding record. And dead silent. I got lucky with this one. I'm super happy to have this. As I had mentioned, I'd never seen this record, wasn't even aware of the record. I'm familiar with a lot of Lee Morgan's incredible work in the late 50s into the 60s. And to think that this guy was only 33 when his life was cut short. Super sad stuff. The record included the original sleeves. Kind of a cool thing, it's got the entire, the definitive catalog, all of the Blue Note titles with their catalog numbers as well. Kind of a cool resource. As I mentioned earlier, this record is really a kind of a cohesive band effort, but especially on What Direction Are You Headed, there is a lot of extensive soloing from Lee Morgan, beginning at about the 2-minute mark on that song. And the rest of the band kind of throws in with assorted solos as well, but it weaves in and out. It's a very cool listen. This is a great record. Happy to have it to my collection, and highly recommended. The other really interesting title from 1972 that I don't think I've seen anyone talk about in any of these videos on YouTube. That is the 72 album called, in a kind of a ho-hum fashion, Sonny Rollins' next album. Look at Sonny here, man. Fucking badass, isn't he? This is a great cover, and it was on Milestone. Sonny signed to Milestone, and I think he was on Milestone between the years of 72 up to like 2000 or 2001. Awesome record. And this is more of a relaxed listen, okay? But one thing that you will sit up at attention is when you put on the record, the first song out of the gate is a Sonny Rollins original composition called Playing in the Yard. And the tone on Sonny Rollins' tenor saxophone in this song is breathtaking. It's jaw-dropping. And the sound on this record rivals that Van Gelder production from the Lee Morgan record. Incredible soundstage, great balance, really nice separation, really pleasurable to listen to this record. There are only 5 songs on this record as well. Side 1 is Playing in the Yard, clocking in at about 10 minutes. We've got the standard Poinsena. Poinsena, the Rollins version, really interesting. This was a first for him, first time that he played soprano. And it's an interesting listen. His kind of soprano line floats just above the electric piano from the great George Cables. Now we also have Jack DeJohnette on drums on side 1. And then David Lee, I think, is on side 2. But Playing in the Yard is just fantastic. I love it. I've actually been streaming it in my car, over the last month or so. I found this record a couple months ago. And when I started thinking about kind of focusing on some more jazz-related things, I thought this was an easy choice as far as, focusing in on 1972. 2 unheralded records from 2 all-time greats. Again, I've never seen anyone talk about Sonny Rollins' next album. So, side two, we have the Everywhere Calypso, Keep Hold of Yourself, and another epic song, Skylark, another standard. Skylark opens with just Sonny, unadulterated, pure, focused Sonny, just him. It's a joy to listen to. A little bit of improvisation happening, but eventually kind of coming back into that structure, which is Skylark. Look at Sonny on the back cover. This was interesting. It's interesting that he titled it Sonny Rollins' next album. Remember, in 1972, Sonny Rollins had been away. He had been in this kind of retirement for 6 years. He hadn't appeared on a recorded record since 1966. He spent about a year learning yoga in India and kind of rediscovering himself, maybe working on himself. This is a very cool record. Milestone is a cool label that I'm going to be digging into further. Both of these records demonstrate that both of these artists were uncovering new things and moving in new directions and switching up their sound a little bit in step with the times. Particularly this one. There was some interesting stuff happening here. Sonny Rollins, adding electric bass and electric piano for the first time ever on any of his records with this one, that's definitely an interesting step for him. But keeping in time with what was happening around him and in the jazz world at that point in time, amazing stuff. Both of these are highly recommended. That is today's Deep Focus Jazz Episode 1. Stay tuned for more. When I feel the urge and when something grabs me that I think is worth talking about and discussing with everybody, you'll see more of these episodes. Thanks, everybody. If you enjoyed today's episode and anything else that I've put out over the last 3 years, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me with YouTube as far as the algorithm, and maybe other people will discover this content as well. In the very least, just like the video. And if you didn't like it, no worries. Take care, everybody.